Yo, I'm Bob, into Marvel. Happen to be totally blind since birth, talking about X-Men the Animated Series, Season 3, Episodes 1 and 2, Out of the Past, Parts 1 and 2, the 27th and 28th episodes of the show overall. So these two episodes premiered during prime time in the summer of 1994. Part 1 premiered on July 29th in 94, and Part 2 would premiere on August 5th in 94. I'd watch both of these as they premiered. I missed the first minute or so of part one. I just gotten back from a post birthday shopping trip in Memphis. My mom had come to take me back to Arkansas. August was around the corner, almost time to go back to school. When I turned the TV on, I heard Xavier screaming about incredible power. I didn't know who that was at first. I'd never heard Xavier screaming before. That was my first encounter with Scream King Xavier. He'd be doing a lot of screaming during the first several episodes of season 3. But I don't blame him. I mean, you have an unknown alien entity sending him visions. Well, we didn't know who it was. Those of us who didn't read the comics didn't know who it was. I wonder if Lalandra is doing the same thing in the comics, or if this is just something that they introduced in the animated series. Speaking of Lalandra, I love how the writers were setting things up for the Phoenix Saga, as Out of the Past parts 1 and 2 were progressing. You get to see the introduction of the Shi'ar, well, in terms of the prison ship that held the Spirit Drinker in the Morlock tunnels. And we also get a bit more of Wolverine's backstory explored as this two-parter is commencing. This is the first time I remember witnessing Lady Deathstrike, and the only time we would see her in the animated series. She might have appeared as a cameo. I think Dark Xavier might have used her to manipulate Wolverine, or at least a vision of her in the Phoenix Saga Part 2. We'll get to that much later, though. You've got the introduction of the Reavers. Such a cool group of characters. I wish we could have seen more of Deathstrike and the Reavers. I hope I didn't say Deathstroke. We get to see a bit of the Morlocks as well. A group of mutants they really didn't use a whole heck of a lot in X-Men the Animated Series. They're only featured briefly at the beginning of the two-parter. I love how Callisto is trying to take back her leadership position. I don't know how long the Shi'ar prison ship had been down in the Morlock tunnels prior to these two episodes. I feel like it was a recent excavation. Maybe it had been down there for a long time. The Morlocks had just discovered it. I don't feel like it was a trump card that Callisto was attempting to play. I feel like this thing had recently been unearthed. She was trying to get Leech to steal some things to be able to open that. And then we have the Reavers showing up in the Morlock tunnels. And the Morlocks are taken out like that. I mean, they are just instantly disposed of. Sounds like they're frozen in some sort of, I don't know, liquid nitrogen, some kind of sci-fi ice substance. I'm not sure what they use. Maybe more of a plastic. I don't know, but they're fine. Kind of like the X-Men version of carbonite, I guess. Leech has to send Wolverine a message because, of course, Lady Deathstrike is his vengeful ex-girlfriend. And I like how a bit more is added to the flashback that we saw in Repo Man during Season 2. That game, that basketball game, is interrupted, in which Wolverine is a very sore loser. He pops the ball with his claws. I wonder how many basketballs the X-Men have gone through. I don't know if this guy likes to lose at anything. He just kind of pops it like a punk, and then he goes to see what Leech wants. And it's an interesting scene. I like how Gambit and Jubilee, they immediately follow him, because Wolverine is family, even though he goes off like a maverick, goes off on sojourns. This is yet another instance in which he goes off by himself to try and solve his own problems. They tag along with him. And, we get the same flashback that we saw in Repo Man. I think they add a little bit, though. We actually get to see Wolverine being fired at by folks in a helicopter by the sound of things. They don't have audio description tracks to the older episodes, so it's a bit more of the flashback. And then, of course, we get the Professor and Dr. Cornelius as Wolverine is being infused with the adamantium there. I mean, the rest of the episode's a giant fight. We get to see the Reavers showcasing what they can do. We get that amazing moment in which we find out why Yuriko is plotting to kill Wolverine. He accidentally ended up killing her father, the professor who worked on his adamantium infusion was Professor Oyama. And I like how that was added. I remember thinking that was so cool the first time I had seen it. I mean, I'd already seen Repo Man one Saturday morning that summer, and I liked how this little bit of information was added to that flashback. And I remember feeling sorry for Deathstrike. She instantly wanted revenge on Logan, although I tend to wonder if she might have known about what was going to happen to him. I don't know that for sure. I mean, she knew her dad had designed the adamantium process, but I'm not sure how much knowledge she had of what was going to be happening prior to the experiment. I've always tended to wonder about that. I don't really know, though. She's trying to end him throughout part 1. Great fight scenes there. In the meantime, Xavier is trying to make sense of the Shi'ar ship down there in the tunnels. I like how the episode opens with Deathstrike attempting to open the ship herself, and it is doing hella damage to her cybernetics there, which is why they needed to get Wolverine down into the tunnels so he could use his claws to open the ship. The episode starts out one way. I remember thinking we weren't going to be seeing what was in the ship in this particular two-parter when I'd first seen it. I thought it was going to be another Wolverine Sojourn episode. 11-year-old me was excited that we were getting more of his backstory revealed. You've got him going up against the Reavers. You've got Gambit and Jubilee showing up in the tunnels. The fight scene I think it's pretty much takes up the entirety of the second act of part 1. And then when the ending of the episode, the cliffhanger ending, that we had to wait a week to find out what was going to happen afterwards, when that occurred, you've got the ship opening and that unearthly growl from the innards of the prison ship there as the spirit drinker emerges. Such a cool episode. I wasn't expecting to see the inhabitant of the spaceship as fast as the writers had revealed them, but I liked the way that episode ended, and having to wait a week until August 5th to find out what was going to happen next, that was not easy. By the way, while the X-Men episodes were airing, Fox was also airing the big Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 2 3-part premiere, The Mutiny, in which we got to see Lord Zed for the first time. I'd done videos on that in the past, though. The Big Mutiny 3-parter on the Power Rangers playlist. So yeah, for me, having watched the episode for the first time at such a young age, I liked the big plot twist. I thought we were just going to be seeing Wolverine going up against Deathstrike, but here comes this spirit drinker from the inside of the prison ship, and it immediately starts guzzling spirits. It sounds like he's an alcoholic, but I like how part 2 opens. You have Wolverine and Deathstrike begrudgingly having to work together. It's clear that Wolverine still has feelings for her. He is heartbroken as to why she wants to end him, but she has given into thoughts of revenge. She's made herself into a cyborg to be able to take him on. And I really wish we could have seen more of her character in the animated series. Hopefully they'll use her in X-Men 97. So Jubilee, she's down for the count almost immediately. Disappointing because I remember wanting to see more of her going up against the Spirit Drinker, but you have to raise the stakes in these battles. In the meantime, Xavier is he's seeing all of this happening. I like how even before the Phoenix Saga begins, I do believe Lilandra is sending him these visions, as we'll, get that alluded to later on in the episode. You've got the private lives of the X-Men. They're interrupted. I like how Beast is in that art museum, and he's dissing Jackson Pollock's paintings. He says something like, "I've never been able to tell the difference between Jackson Pollock's paintings and his drop cloths," or something like that. I wouldn't either, so I'd really like to hang out with Beast and get some audio descriptions from him if he were in fact a real individual in our reality. It'd be kind of fun to tour art museums with Beast. He just seems like such a knowledgeable guy, quite a fun guy to hang out with. Because I do enjoy art museums, even though I don't, really have any art on my walls. I keep meaning to, but understandably, I forget to decorate my walls with art. It'd be cool to have some paintings of comic book characters and things like that. At least I think it would be. I'd have to have someone hang them right side up for me, because knowing me, I would hang them upside down. You got Jean and Cyclops, and they're having dinner. Apparently, their waiter has packed their dinner to go more than once, and he's got to do that again. I love that scene there. They just can't have a date night, these two. The Morlocks interrupt them once. Now they got to go back down into the tunnels again to stop the Spirit Drinker there. And yeah, it's an action-packed conclusion to the two-parter. My favorite bits had to do with Xavier being in the prison ship as he is seeing visions. He's of course screaming some more, and they're all trying to figure out how Xavier knows the ins and outs of the spacecraft. They're trying to figure out how he's getting the information about the prison ship, because Jean is letting everybody know what the Spirit Drinker is. She's letting everybody know that it was captured, and when they're asking her how Xavier found that out, she says, well, that's the odd thing. He doesn't know. So even before the Phoenix Saga, I think Lilandra was reaching out to him, letting him know about the entity inside the spacecraft. And of course, you've got the episode ending with it being dispensed with. They just fry it with electricity on the third rail, and it's down for the count. It was a surprising ending for me. But yeah, you've got all the spirits returning to the Morlocks and Yuriko's bodies. You've got Jubilee; she's fine at the ending of the episode, and I like how things are. Well, they end ominously, because Xavier says, well, this is only the beginning, and he lets everyone know that he's seen visions. I think from what I remember, a friend of mine said that you can actually see Deken as Xavier is speaking about the tyrants that he's seen. I wonder if you see a hint of the Phoenix. For the longest time, I didn't know the episode ended with the big "to be continued in the Phoenix Saga" when Xavier says, "I fear this is only the beginning." I had a friend that I watched it with, one of the best friends I ever had back in the day, and she actually described the ending of the episode. I think they were like flaming letters that let everybody know that the Phoenix Saga was coming up. And I can't wait to get into that, because, yeah, Out of the Past Parts 1 and 2 sets up so much. Xavier starts having the visions. Clearly, Lilandra is reaching out to him. And we'll be seeing a lot more of that in Parts 1 and 2 of the Phoenix Saga. I like how he says, I've begun to doubt my own mind, or I was beginning to doubt my own mind in this two-parter. And we'll see that taking more of a toll, a psychic toll on him in part 2 of the Phoenix Saga. So much is being set up here. I really like the two-parter. I wished that they had used Deathstrike more in the animated series, because, you know, she tells Wolverine, when I'm strong enough, you will see me again. But we didn't see her again. Maybe we saw her in a cameo. I don't know. But she doesn't have anything else to do in the animated series. Like I said earlier, hopefully they'll use her in X-Men 97 at some point. She's one of my favorite characters. I loved how Kelly Hu got to play her in X2 X-Men United, by the way. That's a video for another time, though. Really cool character, and I can't wait to get into the Phoenix Saga next time. One more thing to mention, I was hoping we get to see a bit of the Spirit Drinker's backstory. The only thing I could find about it online sometime back was, I think this Spirit Drinker was based on a Soul Drinker from the comics, some kind of demon that Daken had summoned to suck Lalandra's soul. But we don't get to see anything else pertaining to this entity in the animated series. I would have liked to seen a bit more on, you know, what kind of entity it was in this incarnation of X-Men, how it had been captured, what its purpose had been. Maybe it was, you know, some kind of demon in terms of, you know, what the Shi'ar had seen it as. But it was a really interesting villain. I think it went out a little too easily, though. Who knew electricity could fry it? But I liked it. I always wanted the action figure of this thing. Probably wouldn't be much of an action figure, just a big gaseous cloud with, you know, tendrils and a big mouth. I think it had a big mouth with teeth. But yeah, I always liked this particular entity in the X-Men. Phoenix Saga Parts 1 and 2 next time. Be here for those. And until then, true believers.